Hey guys, Late Boy Scout here, and it's knife review time. Checking out the Kershaw OD-1. This is a pretty neat little knife with amazing kind of flipper thing going on here. It's more of like a, I don't know what you call it, but it's got this interesting sort of launcher thing happening there that's really something. OD-1 stands for Overdrive 1. There's also an OD-2, which is a much smaller version of this, and a much cheaper version of this, and very cool in its own right. This knife, as you can see, is stainless steel, and it is frame lock on this side. And on this side it has another stainless steel liner. This is more the frame. This is a liner here with G10. Now you can also get this not only in black but in orange. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I should be talking about that on model variations. Let's get into first the size, weight, and the materials. As I mentioned, the handle is G10 here, and then 410 stainless over here. It is frame locked. That's the locking mechanism. The blade shape, what would you call this? Drop point, spear point? Ah man, that's kind of a, maybe a drop point. I suppose a drop point, but also almost kind of a spear point. Feels almost like a spear point. And a gentle belly there. I mean, it's not abrupt, it's not dramatic, there's not a lot of belly there. There's a little bit, good for EDC tasks I think, but mostly a very sharp point here. It is hollow ground, so you're going to be able to get a nice fine edge right there at the edge there, and maintain that for quite a while. Feels good. Model variations, as I mentioned. There is one with orange G10, which I think is super cool. This is not my knife, by the way. I have it on loan for the review. If I were to buy one, I think I would probably get that orange G10 version. Also, another variation, as I mentioned before, is the OD-2. Very small version of this exact same knife. Let's have a look and see what we see under there. I don't really see any skeletonizing of any kind. Not skeletonized at all. It's just a big solid slab of steel on both sides. The pocket clip, as you see, is repositionable from there to there, though. Has the lockup on it. Side to side, feels really good. Front to back, do you hear that? On this particular specimen, front to back is not all that good. Mostly because this liner lock is kind of reluctant to move all the way over. I mean, I'm doing that very gently. I'm moving it very gently. And yeah, it's not a very good lockup on this particular specimen. Even if I try to push it over, it doesn't want to go unless it goes all the way over. Okay, so this specimen is not a very good lockup. Perhaps if I had another one to examine, I could see if that's a bad lockup on the model in general. Or if you own this knife, go ahead and chime in and tell me how your lockup is. But the blade centering, let's address that, is not bad. It's pretty good. I've seen a lot worse on Kershaw blades, particularly on the Oh So Sweet, which really favors this side over here, doesn't it? It's a shame, but it's just a fact. Clip design is pretty standard. You've seen this pretty much exact clip, I think, on the Skyline. And how deep does it go? Let's pull out Mr. Bandana here. Pretend like he's a pair of pants. Let's put that clip over it. That's about how deep you go. Okay, that's cool. You know, for you guys who like to have something to grab onto to extract your knife, you're going to really like that. I also kind of like the fact that it's steel on steel rather than steel on G10. Steel on G10 makes for a nice, you know, a good, secure pocket clip, because it'll stay in your pocket and won't slip out very easily. But this, as long as it's nice and tight, it will stay in there but still extract pretty smoothly. So I like that. Pocket clip is repositionable on this side only to that position. All right, very cool. So you can actually have that as tip down carry if you want to, but not on this side. On this side it's only tip up carry. It looks like it's pretty much completely disassemblable. Yeah, torque screws everywhere. So you can keep this thing as clean as you need to. Take it apart and see how that awesome little device works. I'd kind of like to do that. Probably won't though, as it's all known, as I mentioned. And the fit and finish of it is pretty sweet. Everything about it feels nice and rounded on the edges. They feel good, and you know, just the steel here in general is very nice and rounded, very ergonomic feeling. A great looking knife, very great looking knife. I would say that that's the case with the blade as well. Everything about the blade is very good looking. Quality of manufacture is pretty high. This is made in the USA. Let's talk about the usability of this knife. It's an EDC blade. You know, you might be able to use this as kind of a work knife as well, but with that very, very sharp and almost delicate tip, I probably wouldn't do it. Probably wouldn't do it. The deployment mode and speed, as you saw before, as I talked about already, is via this little flipper here, which disappears into the back of the handle once you flip it. I don't know how that works, man. I'm not sure how they did this. It's got some gears of some kind in there associated with that flipper that turn and launch that blade out. And I've tried to do this slowly. I've tried to give it kind of a, you know, sort of like the Kershaw chill. If you don't give that a good solid flip, it doesn't come out all the way. You've got to give it a kind of a hard flick in order to get a full deployment. In fact, you know, that was still kind of weak. There. You've got to give it a hard flip in order to get a full deployment like that. The oh so sweet, did I say oh so sweet before? This is the chill, sorry. The oh so sweet, of course, is spring assisted, so it snaps out real fast. This is not spring assisted. How they accomplish this, I'm just not sure. But, you know, if you try to push that thing out, and well, it's kind of hard if you do it slowly actually. It actually retains very, very well and becomes very hard. Maybe this one's just not broken in well enough. But it comes out all the way no matter what. It requires so much pressure in order to activate this. And once it reaches that level of pressure, it's coming out all the way no matter what. And that's been the case with pretty much every attempt at deployment that I've made. It goes out all the way. There's no sort of half deployment with this knife. And again, no spring assist on there. Just a brilliant, brilliant design. Again, who is the designer on this? Lee Williams, and that's mentioned here on the handle on stainless steel. Cool. Retention and safety in pocket and hand. Let's talk about in hand. It's a very sort of subdued finger choil here, which again, it's kind of a gentlemanly folder. It's not made for, you know, it's not made to have a nice serious choil there that locks your finger in like this one does, or even like this one does. It's not made to do that. You're meant to be sort of gentle with this knife because it doesn't do any of those things. No jimping whatsoever on anywhere on the knife. Well, that's not true. Right here there is. So that's, you know, going to give you some support in the finger choil and helping you to not slide forward as long as you have a nice tight grip on it. In pocket, I think it's good enough retention, as I mentioned before as I was talking about the clip. I think it's a decent clip, and the fact that the steel on steel is tight enough, and so I think that works fairly well. However, on this particular model, as I mentioned before, that the lockup is not that great. I also discovered that it does not retain very well in handle. So I imagine that this will kind of get, okay, I just did that by flipping it, okay? See that? Yeah, that's all it took. Just a little, I'm not messing with this at all, guys. I'm just kind of giving it some gravity, and it's coming right out. Don't like that at all. Nope, not at all. Not at all. And I think that's a safety problem because that can pop open and just sort of fall open accidentally very, very easily. Very easily. I'm doing it over and over here. It very easily does that. It almost comes out easier that way than it does with the flipper. So I think that's a big problem and a big, big hit against this knife. Again, it could just be the specimen. If you own this knife and yours doesn't do that, please chime in the comments section and let us know. As far as the tip and the edge of this thing, I talked before, pretty much covered that. Nice and sharp right here. Hollow ground, good, sharp, razor sharp, hair popping sharp edge out of the box. Good job, Kershaw. How does it feel in hand with none of those, no jimping, no serious finger choil here? How does it feel in hand? Comfortable enough. Again, for an EDC blade that you're not going to do a lot of hard work with, hopefully you're not going to do a lot of hard work with your everyday carry blade. Maybe you will. I don't know. You won't want to do it with this one though, because Ergonomics, while they feel good, there's just not a lot of safety features to keep your finger from going forward or anything like that. And in pocket, this thing takes up about as much space as, let's see, let's compare it to the Oh So Sweet. It's maybe a little bit thinner than the Oh So Sweet. So if you're happy carrying an Oh So Sweet around, this will fill up your pocket a little bit less. How about the Kershaw Chill? Let's bring that in. Yeah, slightly bigger than the Chill. So somewhere in between the Chill and the Oh So Sweet. And those are the two that I'll sort of compare to it. Aesthetics and cool factor. Man, this is a good looking blade. It is good looking, don't you think? It's sweet looking. And I think if nothing else, you know, that incredible flipper design is very, very cool. It's collectible for that reason alone. And the fact that it's made in the USA, again, is another very, very cool thing about this knife. You might have a collection of only made in the USA blades. This would be a great addition to it. I expect more from this knife, from the brand and components, than what I've seen as far as that accidental deployment is concerned. Otherwise, I know that Kershaw is a good knife company. And the steel, 13, what was it again? 14C28N stainless Sandvik steel, closely related to the steel that you find in the Kershaw Zing, which is also a knife that I have and like quite a lot. I've had good experience with that steel. I like it. It works well for me. I think it keeps a good edge and is easy enough to resharpen. In roll, again, I think this is a good EDC blade. I do. It is good in pocket, good in hand, light chores. It'll do really well, I think. Slice for the price. MSRP and median price, and quality and cool for the price. The MSRP on this is a whopping 80 bucks. Are you going to pay 80 bucks for this? Heck no. The median price you'll find this for is right around 50. Actually, probably between 40 and 50. Maybe even less on the secondary market, if you're lucky. For the price, let's assume that you paid between $40 and $50 for this knife. For that price, I think it's very cool. It's very good looking. It does have a lot of cool features to it and a lot of interesting design points to this knife. I expect more regarding this issue. I expect more from Kershaw regarding that. And I'm frankly kind of disappointed in that and the lockup on this particular specimen. Beyond that, I do think it's pretty cool. However, I think I would stay away from it at that price point. You know, $50, I don't think I'd touch this knife. Now that I've been able to handle it and play with it a little bit, I don't want to buy this knife. Not even the orange version, if I were to get a hold of it. So there you go, guys. That's my review on the Kershaw OD-1 Overdrive 1. Cool knife, but maybe not quite cool enough for the price. We'll see you later.